This is my husband, Adam, and some people call him the Rocket Man, and they think it's really cool because he works with rocket scientists. He would say they're more like rocket engineers, but don't you think it sounds way cooler to say you work with rocket scientists? He works in the aerospace industry, and his actual job title is a master scheduler. Basically, he's the guy responsible to schedule out all the tasks it takes to build a rocket. Usually he would say he can bore you to death with all the details of what he actually does, but just know, it's a really big job.
And this is my beautiful wife, Lacey. She's also a master scheduler. She's the master scheduler of our family and all of our comings and goings. We have 5 kids, 5 daughters, which means it's a really big job. She handles the laundry, the dishes, the dinners, the finances. She knows when and where our kids need to be, and she knows all of our kids' friends' names by heart. She would say she could bore you to death with all the things that she does every day, but just know, it's a really big job managing our family. Before we became master schedulers of our personal and professional careers, there was a pivotal moment when we were really struggling with our everyday relationship, and it felt like everything was falling apart. At that time, Lacey didn't feel connected to me, and honestly, I didn't feel connected to myself either. Lacey decided that maybe it would be better if we went our separate ways. This broke me, and I felt like my entire world was falling apart, and I was losing everything. Lacey decided to pack up the kids and go visit her parents in Arizona for part of the summer. I was left alone in Utah, super depressed, and just being angry with my life. I remember one day it was so bad, I was sitting there thinking, maybe the world would be a better place without me. I remember getting up, going into our bedroom, pulling out a pistol. I held it up to my head and pulled the trigger. Click. The gun wasn't loaded. I couldn't even find ammunition for it at that time, thank goodness. I wanted to know what it felt like to hold that gun up to my head and pull the trigger. I was in such a dark place at that time, I didn't feel anything. And that scared me more than death itself. I knew that something had to change within myself and with my relationship with my wife and family. And that change needed to start with me. That led Lacey and I down a path of self-discovery, looking into ourselves and in our relationship of how we could achieve success in our life, even amongst hardship, struggle, and failure. We wanted to create a legacy for our kids and grandkids, but it was our belief that we couldn't do that unless we achieved success. Now, Lacey mentioned earlier that I'm a master scheduler in the aerospace industry. One of the coolest programs I've been able to be a master scheduler on is the D5 Trident missile. That's the big missile they launch out of the submarines. If you've ever seen a video of one of those missiles launching out of the submarine, it's really quite interesting. The submarine is underwater, and the missile just pops out of the water. It's not ignited yet, it just is propelled out of the water by the air bubble that's in the launch tube. Once it pops out, the rocket ignites. In order to get that rocket to where it needs to go and deliver its payload, there's 3 stages or boosters that launch it into the atmosphere. As I thought about it, I was like, wow, this thing starts out underwater. That's the beginning point. And if you look at the end point where it delivers its payload, I had this kind of aha moment that that's exactly what success looks like. Success, when you look at it closely, is just like that rocket launching into the atmosphere. And those 3 stages or boosters are critical to the mission's success. In a likewise similar parallel way, they're critical to your success. But first, you must decide that you want to shift your life and achieve success. It's like when that rocket first pops out of the water due to the air bubble that's in the launch tube. We call that awareness that you're about to take off in your first stage towards success. The first stage of the rocket or booster is by far the biggest because it takes a lot of fuel, a lot of energy to get that rocket off the ground and into the atmosphere. In comparison, the first stage of success is all about internal beliefs and having faith in yourself. that faith, that fuel that you need is the hardest part about taking off, right? But if you can build up enough fuel, have that faith, that belief in yourself, then you can launch yourself and get yourself off the ground. You're off to a great start in your first stage towards success.
Now, in our first stage of success, and faith and belief in ourselves happened years ago, when Adam and I sat down and simply decided we just weren't making enough money. In order to raise our family, we needed Adam to find a job where he was making right around $85,000 a year. So we decided to put this as a goal on our vision board. Adam started working the process. He started submitting lots of applications, and he even talked to a couple of recruiters. One day he called me and he said, I just got a call from one of the jobs I interviewed with, and they'd like to make me an offer of $75,000. We were excited. This was a pay increase. But as we continued to talk about it, we realized it just wasn't quite the $85,000 that was on our vision board. So Adam decided to ask them if maybe the company would be willing to go up to $85,000. They came back and said they could do $80,000. But that was the best they could do. So we decided to put our faith in the job working out and step forward and take action by accepting the job. Adam turned in his 2-week notice, but on the last day, he got a call from a different job he had interviewed with, and they wanted to make him an offer. And the recruiter was like, how much are you currently making? And he said, $80,000. Because he was going to be on Monday. So the recruiter came back and said, the company would like to officially offer you a job paying $90,000 a year with a $7,000 sign-on bonus. Adam and I were ecstatic. And of course he said yes. The job was 5 minutes away from home, more money than was on our vision board, plus it came with a sign-on bonus. Score. We put our faith in the job working out, and that job for us paid off, and that launched our first rocket.
If the first stage of success is faith, then the second stage is all about continuing that momentum that you created in the first stage. Now remember, the biggest hurdle is creating enough fuel, enough energy, that belief in yourself. But what if that rocket wasn't designed in a way to create momentum? It would just sputter out and crash, right? The same thing with success. The second stage of success is all about continuing that momentum by setting clear intentions and taking action toward your goals.
Recently, we sold our home so we could start traveling the country with our kids. And we had talked about doing this a couple of times, but we finally set the intention that as soon as our daughter graduated from high school, we would take action and start the process. But when we first started telling people we were going to do this, we got one of two responses. It was either, oh my gosh, I would love to do that, but for some reason, they don't. Or two, that's crazy. I could never do that. And so they don't. And here's the thing. Success isn't about the big things. Success really isn't about us selling our home and going out on the road. Success happens in the little ways every day. And if you do those right, they line up into the bigger successes that come later, down the road. And over time, people will say, oh my gosh, you're so lucky because you're successful. But you know what they didn't see is those everyday little things that added up to that. We set the intention and we took action, and that led us to being able to sell our home and travel.
The first and second stages take a lot of fuel and a lot of energy to get that rocket up into the atmosphere. The third stage is a much smaller booster, but just as important. The third stage is what positions the rocket to deliver the payload. And so in success, the third stage is what positions you to achieve your goal towards success and continue beyond. The third stage of success is tenacity and determination, that drive to never give up when you find yourself facing struggle or fear. You need that determination in order to deliver the final payload in your own roadmap towards success.
Because in our final stage on our personal roadmap to success, we're still striving towards stage 3. And here's where success and the rocket comparison differ just a little bit. In a rocket launch, you have clear-cut stages. You have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then the payload is delivered and it's complete. But in success, there's more of a continuation. Success has to be sustained. You don't just achieve success and then you're like, ta-da, I'm done. Success happens in those small ways every day. And if you add those up, you become great. And that is true legacy. Thank you.